The fluorescent lights in the lobby of Meridian Corporate Tower hummed like angry wasps, and I should have taken that as a warning. But hell, I was feeling good that Friday afternoon. Business was decent, the sun was shining for once in this godforsaken city, and I had a bag of Thai food from Saddie's favorite place swinging from my left hand while I clutched a bouquet of daisies in my right. 3 months. That's how long my wife had been working at this glass monument to corporate greed, and I'd never once set foot inside. Not once had she said, "Hey Tom, come see my new office." Not once had she invited me to meet her colleagues or grab lunch together. But today I figured would be different. Today I'd surprise her. The security desk looked like something out of a sci-fi movie, all black marble and chrome, with monitors displaying feeds from what had to be 100 cameras. The guard, a thick-necked guy in his 50s with the kind of mustache that went out of style in the 80s, barely looked up when I approached. "Here to see Saddie Mitchell," I said, setting the food down to fish out my wallet. "I'm her husband." He handed me a visitor badge without much interest, the kind that prints your photo and makes you look like a convicted felon. "Elevator bank C, 23rd floor." The elevator ride felt longer than it should have. 23 floors of corporate ambition, and somewhere up there was my wife, probably buried in spreadsheets or whatever the hell financial analysts did all day. The elevator dinged, and I stepped into a world that might as well have been on Mars. Everything was white and chrome and glass. The carpet was so thick it felt like walking on clouds, and the air smelled like expensive perfume and printer toner. A receptionist with perfect teeth and dead eyes smiled at me from behind a desk that probably cost more than my truck. "I'm looking for Saddie Mitchell," I said. "Down the hall, corner office on the left." Corner office. My Saddie had a corner office. I felt a little surge of pride as I walked down the hallway, past cubicles where people in expensive suits typed furiously at computers. My wife had made it. Small-town girl from Ohio, working her way up in the big leagues. Her office door was open, and I could see her bent over some papers, her blonde hair falling across her face the way it did when she was concentrating. She looked beautiful in her navy blue suit, professional and confident, in a way that still surprised me sometimes. I knocked on the doorframe. "Delivery service." Her head snapped up, and for just a split second her face lit up with genuine happiness. Then something else took over, something that looked an awful lot like panic. "Tom, what are you doing here?" Her voice was pitched higher than normal, and she was looking around like she expected SWAT teams to come rappelling through the windows. "Brought you lunch," I said, holding up the bag. "And flowers, because it's Friday and you've been working so hard lately." "You can't be here." She stood up so fast her chair rolled backward and hit the window. "I mean, this isn't a good time. I'm really busy." I looked around her office. It was nice. Real nice. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a desk that could double as a landing strip, and artwork that probably cost more than I made in a month. But something felt off. There were no pictures of us on her desk, no wedding photo, no vacation shots, nothing that indicated she had a life outside these walls. "What's going on, Saddie? You're acting like I just robbed a bank." "Nothing's going on. This is my workplace, Tom. You can't just show up unannounced." That's when I noticed them, her coworkers, standing in their cubicles and doorways, staring at us like we were performing dinner theater. Their expressions ranged from curious to uncomfortable, and a few were whispering to each other behind their hands. "Saddie, what the hell is going on?" She looked at the gathering crowd, then at me, and something cold settled in her eyes. Something I'd never seen before in 15 years of marriage. "Security," she called out, her voice carrying down the hallway. "Security. Escort this man out." The words hit me like a physical blow. This man. Not my husband or Tom. This man. A security guard appeared at the end of the hallway, different from the one downstairs, younger, with the kind of build that suggested he took his job seriously. He started walking toward us, his hand moving to the radio clipped to his belt. "Ma'am, is there a problem here?" he asked, his eyes fixed on me like I was some kind of threat. "Yes," Saddie said, not looking at me. "I need this man escorted from the building." The guard got closer, and I could see him sizing me up. 6'2", still in decent shape from my construction days, probably not the kind of guy who'd go quietly. His hand hovered over his radio, and he looked me in the face for the first time. Then he froze. I mean, completely froze, like someone had hit a pause button. His hand stopped moving toward his radio. His mouth opened slightly, and he just stared at me with an expression I couldn't read. "Did you hear me?" Saddie snapped. "I said escort him out." The guard slowly, almost reluctantly, brought his radio to his mouth. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Ma'am, I think you need to come to the lobby. It's him?" Saddie's face went white. not pale, white like all the blood had drained out of her body in one go. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." The guard kept talking into his radio, his eyes never leaving my face. "He's here. He's actually here." A voice crackled through the radio, crisp and professional. "I'll be right there." "Saddie," I said, but she was backing away from me like I had the plague. "Please," she whispered, and I could see tears starting in her eyes. "Please just leave. I'll explain everything later, I promise. Just please go." But it was too late for that. The elevator at the end of the hall dinged, and out stepped a woman who commanded attention the way a thunderstorm commands respect. She was tall, maybe 5'8", with silver-streaked black hair pulled back in a perfect chignon. Her suit probably cost more than my mortgage payment, and she moved with the kind of confidence that comes from having serious money and serious power. She walked straight toward me, her heels clicking on the marble floor like a countdown timer. "Hello," she said, extending a manicured hand. "I'm Claire Davidson, CEO of Meridian Financial. You must be Tom." I shook her hand, confused as hell. "Yeah, that's me. Should I know who you are?" Claire smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. It was the kind of smile a shark might wear if sharks could smile. "You didn't tell him?" she said, looking at Saddie. "Claire, please," Saddie begged. "I was going to—" "Tell me what?" I interrupted. Claire turned back to me, and I could see something calculating in her dark eyes. "Do you know who I am, Tom? I mean, really know?" "Lady, I've never seen you before in my life." "That's interesting," Claire said, pulling out her phone. "Because I know quite a lot about you. Saddie's told me so much." "Claire, stop!" Saddie was crying now, actual tears streaming down her face. "This isn't fair." "Fair?" Claire's voice was sharp enough to cut glass. "What's fair about lying to your husband for 3 months?" The hallway had gone completely silent. Every employee on the floor was watching us now, and I could feel their eyes like physical weight. "What lies?" I asked, though part of me already knew I didn't want to hear the answer. Claire held up her phone, and I could see text messages on the screen. "These lies, Tom. 3 months' worth of them." She started reading, her voice carrying down the hallway. "Can't wait to see you tonight, baby. Tom's working late again, so we'll have the house to ourselves." My stomach dropped into my shoes. "Here's another one. I think I'm ready to tell him about us. I can't keep living this lie." "Stop," Saddie whispered, but Claire kept going. "And my personal favorite. I never knew I could feel this way about another woman. You've changed everything for me, Claire." The words hung in the air like smoke from a house fire. Another woman. My wife was having an affair with another woman, with her boss, with the CEO of the company where she worked. "Is this true?" I asked Saddie, though her tears had already given me the answer. She couldn't even look at me. "Tom, I can explain." "Explain what? That you've been sleeping with your boss, that you've been lying to me for 3 months, that you just tried to have me thrown out of here like some kind of stalker?" "It's not what you think," she sobbed. "Really? Because what I think is that my wife has been cheating on me with a woman she never bothered to mention, in a relationship she never bothered to end before starting a new one." Claire was watching this whole exchange with something that looked like satisfaction. "Tom, I think there are some things about your wife you don't know." "Claire, please," Saddie begged. "Don't do this." "Don't do what? Tell him the truth? Tell him that you've been planning to leave him for 2 months? Tell him about the apartment we've been looking at together?" Each word was like a knife between my ribs. 15 years of marriage, and she was planning to leave me for a woman I'd never heard of, in a relationship that had been going on right under my nose. I looked around at all the faces staring at us. Saddie's co-workers, people she saw every day, people she'd probably told about her plans to leave me. They all knew. Every single one of them knew my marriage was over before I did. The flowers fell from my hand and scattered across the expensive carpet. White daisies, Saddie's favorites, now looking like casualties of war. "Tom, wait," Saddie called as I turned toward the elevator. But I didn't wait. I couldn't. I walked past the staring faces, past the whispers, past the security guard who was still looking at me like I was some kind of ghost. I got in the elevator and watched the numbers count down, 23, 22, 21, each floor taking me further away from the life I thought I had. When the elevator doors opened in the lobby, I could hear Saddie calling my name from somewhere far above, her voice echoing in the marble and glass cavern of Meridian Financial Tower. But I kept walking, out into the afternoon sun that suddenly felt too bright, too harsh, too honest for what I'd just learned about my life. The drive home was a blur of traffic lights and half-formed thoughts. My hands gripped the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from floating away, and I kept replaying Claire's words. Another woman, planning to leave him, the apartment we've been looking at. Our house, my house now, I guess, sat at the end of Maple Street like it had for the past 8 years, white colonial with black shutters, a front porch where Saddie used to drink her morning coffee, a 2-car garage where her space had been empty more nights than not lately. I'd thought she was just working late. Christ, I'd been proud of her dedication. I sat in my truck for 10 minutes, staring at the house, trying to figure out how I'd missed it all. The signs had been there, hadn't they? The new clothes, the sudden interest in working out, the way she'd started keeping her phone face down during dinner, the way she'd stopped talking about her day at work, stopped mentioning her coworkers by name. My phone buzzed. Saddie. Tom, please call me. I can explain everything. Then another. It's not what it looked like. And another. Claire was trying to hurt me. She's jealous and vindictive. I turned the phone off. Inside, the house felt different. Everything was exactly where it had been that morning. Saddie's coffee mug in the sink, her magazines on the counter, her shoes by the front door, but it all looked like props in a play about someone else's life. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat at the kitchen table, trying to make sense of what had happened. Saddie was gay. Or bi. Whatever. She was sleeping with her boss, a woman who clearly had money and power and everything I couldn't give her. They were looking at apartments together, planning a life together, while I was bringing her Thai food and daisies like some kind of clueless husband from a sitcom. The phone rang, the landline, which nobody used except telemarketers and Saddie's mother. I almost didn't answer it, but something made me pick up. Tom? It was my buddy Mike from the construction crew. Jesus Christ, man, you okay? How did you... It's all over Facebook, dude. Someone at Saddie's office posted a video. My blood went cold. What video? The whole thing, man. You walking in with flowers, Saddie calling security, that CEO lady reading the text messages. It's got like 50,000 views already. I hung up and turned my phone back on. 17 missed calls, 43 text messages, and notifications from every social media app I had. I opened Facebook with shaking hands. There it was, posted by someone named Jennifer Walsh, probably one of Saddie's co-workers. The video was shaky, clearly shot on a phone, but the audio was crystal clear. I watched myself hand Saddie the flowers, watched her face change, watched her call security, and then I heard Claire's voice, reading those text messages for everyone to hear. The comments were brutal. Holy shit, that poor guy. What a witch. Who does that to their husband? Plot twist. Didn't see that coming. This is why I have trust issues. That CEO is cold as ice. Savage. I scrolled down and saw that it had been shared 847 times. 847 people had thought my humiliation was worth sharing with their friends. My phone rang. Saddie again. This time I answered. Tom, thank God. Listen to me. I saw the video, I said. Silence. Saddie, the whole internet saw the video. I didn't know she was recording, she whispered. I swear I didn't know. That's what you're worried about. The recording? No, Tom, I never wanted it to happen like this. How did you want it to happen? Were you just going to disappear one day? Leave a note on the kitchen table? I was going to tell you. I was working up the courage. Courage? I laughed, and it came out harsh and bitter. You had the courage to sleep with your boss for 3 months, but not the courage to tell your husband? Don't say it like that. Like what? Like the truth? She was crying again, but I found I didn't care anymore. Tom, I know you're hurt, but you have to understand. Understand what? That you're gay? That you never loved me? That our entire marriage was a lie? It wasn't a lie. I did love you. I do love you, just not the way you love her. It's complicated. No, Saddie, it's really not. You fell in love with someone else and decided to sneak around instead of being honest with me. That's not complicated. That's just shitty. Claire said you'd react like this. That stopped me cold. Claire said what? She said you'd be angry and cruel and try to make me feel guilty. How long has she known about me, Saddie? How long have you two been talking about me? Silence. How long? Since the beginning, she whispered. Since the first week I started working there. Jesus Christ. I sat down hard on the couch. You've been planning this for 3 months, both of you. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Explain it to me, because I'm having a hard time understanding how my wife of 15 years decided to blow up our marriage for a woman she met 3 months ago. I knew her before. The words came out so quietly I almost missed them. What? I knew Claire before, in college. We dated for 2 years. The room started spinning. You dated a woman in college? Yes. For 2 years. Yes. And you never thought to mention this to your husband? It was a long time ago, Tom. It didn't seem relevant. Didn't seem relevant? Saddie, you were in a serious relationship with a woman, and you didn't think your husband should know that you're attracted to women? I'm not gay, Tom. There's a difference. Oh, well, that makes it so much better. You're being sarcastic. You're goddamn right I'm being sarcastic. My wife just told me she's been sleeping with her ex-girlfriend from college, and I'm supposed to be understanding about it. I didn't plan for this to happen. When I saw Claire's name on the company directory, I thought about not taking the job. But I needed this opportunity, Tom. You know how hard it's been for me to find work in my field. So you took the job and decided to rekindle an old flame? It wasn't like that. We were just friends at first. We'd have coffee, talk about work, reminisce about college. But then what? Then I remembered why I fell in love with her the first time. Each word was like a physical blow. What about why you fell in love with me? That was different. Different how? I was young when I met you, Tom. I was scared and confused, and you were safe. You were kind and stable and everything I thought I wanted. But not what you actually wanted. I don't know. I thought I did. For 15 years I thought I did. And now? Now I know I was lying to myself and to you. I hung up the phone and threw it across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor. Probably broken, but I didn't care. 15 years. 15 years of marriage, and she was telling me I was the safe choice, the consolation prize, the man she settled for because she was too scared to admit what she really wanted. I opened another beer and tried to process everything. She'd had a serious relationship with a woman in college, a woman who was now her boss and her lover. They'd been planning my wife's exit from our marriage for 3 months, probably longer, and the whole thing had been caught on video and shared across social media for the entertainment of strangers. My phone, the broken one on the floor, buzzed with another notification. I picked it up and saw that the screen was cracked, but it still worked. Another text from Saddie. I'm staying at Claire's tonight. We need to talk, but not like this. When you are ready to be rational, call me. Rational. She wanted me to be rational about discovering that my marriage was over, that my wife was in love with someone else, and that I'd been humiliated in front of the entire internet. I typed back, don't bother coming home tomorrow either. Then I turned the phone off again and sat in my empty house, drinking beer and trying to figure out how my life had gone from normal to nightmare in the span of one afternoon. Outside, I could hear Mrs. Peterson's dog barking, and somewhere down the street someone was mowing their lawn. Normal sounds from a normal Friday evening in a normal neighborhood where normal people lived normal lives. But nothing about my life was normal anymore. Saturday morning came with a hangover and the kind of regret that settles in your bones like arthritis. I'd finished half a 12-pack the night before, sitting on my couch and reading the comments on that goddamn video until my eyes burned and my faith in humanity hit rock bottom. The video had over 100,000 views now. Someone had even made memes out of it. My face photoshopped onto crying Jordan, Saddie's expression turned into a surprised Pikachu. The internet had taken my personal catastrophe and turned it into entertainment. My phone had 47 new messages. Most were from people I hadn't talked to in years, suddenly very concerned about my well-being now that my humiliation was viral. A few were from actual friends, offering support or a place to crash. And 3 were from reporters, actual reporters, wanting to interview me about my experience with workplace infidelity. I deleted them all. Around noon, I heard a car in the driveway. For a second, I thought it might be Saddie, coming home to collect her things or attempt another explanation. But when I looked out the window, I saw my brother Jake getting out of his pickup truck, carrying a bag from McDonald's and wearing the kind of expression people usually reserve for funerals. Figured you might need some grease and company, he said when I opened the door. Jake was 3 years younger than me, but he'd always been the smart one. Engineering degree, nice house in the suburbs, wife who actually loved him, and kids who didn't think he was an embarrassment. We'd grown apart over the years, different lives, different priorities, but he was still my brother. Saw the video, he said, setting the bag on my kitchen table. Yeah, well, join the club. Apparently half the country saw it. How you holding up? I shrugged and pulled a burger out of the bag. My wife's gay, my marriage is over, and I'm the laughingstock of the internet. So, living the dream. She's not gay, Tom. Jesus, not you too. I'm just saying there's a difference. The difference is academic when she's sleeping with her boss instead of her husband. Jake sat down across from me and unwrapped his own burger. How long did you know something was wrong? I didn't. That's the thing that's really blowing my mind. I had no idea. I thought we were happy. I thought she was working late because she cared about her job. There had to be signs. Yeah, in hindsight, there were signs. She stopped wanting to have intimacy. She started dressing differently, working out more. She got secretive about her phone. But I just thought, I don't know what I thought, that she was going through a phase or something. When's the last time you two talked? Really talked? I had to think about it. I don't know. Months, maybe. We'd talk about practical stuff. Bills, schedules, whose turn it was to take out the trash. But actual conversation? About feelings or dreams or what we wanted out of life? I can't remember. That's not good, man. No shit, Sherlock. We ate in silence for a while. The McDonald's tasted like cardboard, but I hadn't eaten anything since yesterday's Thai food disaster, so I forced it down. What are you going to do? Jake asked. Lawyer up, I guess. File for divorce. Try to salvage whatever's left of my dignity. I mean about the video, about all this internet attention. I hadn't really thought about that. The video was out there forever now, archived in the Digital Hall of Fame of public humiliations. Years from now, people might still be watching my wife call security on me while her boss read their love texts out loud. Nothing I can do about that, I said. Can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. My phone rang, unknown number. Mr. Mitchell, this is Rebecca Chen from Channel 7 News. I was wondering if you'd be interested in telling your side of the story. I hung up without answering. Reporters, I told Jake. Seriously? 3 different ones so far. Apparently cheating wives and viral videos are newsworthy now. The phone rang again. Different number. This time I answered with, not interested, and hung up immediately. You should probably disconnect that thing for a while, Jake said. Can't. Saddie's going to call eventually, and we need to figure out the logistics of splitting up our life. As if summoned by her name, my phone buzzed with a text from Saddie. Can I come get some clothes? I'll wait until you're not there if you want. I showed Jake the message. What are you going to say? I don't know. Part of me wants to tell her to go screw herself. Another part of me just wants this whole thing to be over with. I typed back, I'll be out from 3-5. Don't take anything that's not yours. Her response came immediately. Thank you. I'm sorry, Tom, for everything. I didn't respond to that. At 2:45, Jake and I left the house and drove to Murphy's Tavern, a dive bar on the other side of town where I figured nobody would recognize me. The place was exactly what you'd expect. Dim lighting, sticky floors, and the kind of clientele that minded their own business. We found a booth in the back and ordered whiskey. Real whiskey, not the cheap stuff I'd been drinking at home. So what's the plan? Jake asked. Survive the weekend. Call a lawyer on Monday. Try to figure out how to divide 15 years' worth of shared life. I mean the long-term plan. What do you want your life to look like after this is over? I'd been so focused on the immediate crisis that I hadn't thought about the future. What did I want my life to look like? For 15 years, my life had been built around being Saddie's husband. Now what was I? I have no idea, I admitted. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. Maybe this is a chance to figure out who you are when you're not trying to make someone else happy. Deep thoughts from little brother. I'm serious, Tom. When's the last time you did something just because you wanted to do it? Not because Saddie wanted to do it, not because it was practical or responsible, but just because it would make you happy? I couldn't answer that question, which was probably an answer in itself. We drank in silence for a while, watching a baseball game on the TV above the bar. The Cubs were losing, which seemed appropriate. Around 4:30, my phone buzzed with another text from Saddie. I'm done. Thank you for giving me space to get my things. She's gone, I told Jake. How do you feel about that? Empty, relieved, angry, all of the above. Want to go home? Not really, but I guess I should face reality eventually. When we got back to the house, I could tell Saddie had been there. Some of her clothes were gone from the bedroom closet. Her toiletries were missing from the bathroom. The photo of us from our wedding day was no longer on the dresser, but she'd left other things, the coffee mug she used every morning, the romance novels on her nightstand, the throw pillow she'd bought because it matched the curtains. Like she was hedging her bets, keeping one foot in our old life just in case. On the kitchen table, she'd left a note. Tom, I know you probably don't want to hear this right now, but I need you to know that I never meant for things to happen this way. I never wanted to hurt you. I was trying to figure out how to tell you about Claire and me, but I was scared. I was a coward, and I'm sorry. You deserve better than what I gave you. You deserve someone who loves you the way you need to be loved. I hope someday you can forgive me. Saddie. I read it twice, then crumpled it up and threw it in the trash. Screw her apology, I said to Jake. Feel better? Not really, but it felt good to say it. Jake stayed until around 8, and then I was alone again in my house that felt more like a crime scene than a home. I ordered pizza and tried to watch TV, but every channel seemed to be running stories about infidelity or divorce or betrayal. Finally, I turned everything off and sat in the dark, thinking about Saddie's note. She was sorry, she was scared, she was a coward. She hoped I could forgive her, but she was still with Claire. She was still choosing the life she wanted over the life we'd built together, and that, more than anything else, told me everything I needed to know about where I stood in her priorities. Monday morning arrived like a hangover you can't shake. I'd spent Sunday hiding in my house, ignoring phone calls, and pretending the outside world didn't exist. But Monday meant facing reality, and reality meant figuring out how to put my life back together. I called in sick to work, not entirely a lie, since I felt like I'd been hit by a truck, and started looking for divorce lawyers. Turns out, when your marital problems go viral, finding legal representation becomes a lot more complicated. The first 3 lawyers I called had already seen the video. "Mr. Mitchell," said the fourth one, a woman named Patricia Hendricks who sounded like she'd been practicing law since the Civil War. "I've reviewed your case, and I have to ask, are you prepared for the media attention this might generate?" "What media attention?" "Your situation has attracted quite a bit of online interest. If we proceed with a contested divorce, especially one involving adultery and same intimate relationships, there's a good chance reporters will want to follow the story." "It's not contested. She can have whatever she wants. I just want out." "That's probably wise. I can file no-fault papers by the end of the week. Do it." After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen drinking coffee and trying to figure out what to do with the rest of my life. 15 years of marriage, and I had no idea how to be single. I didn't know how to date, how to cook for one person, how to sleep in an empty bed. My phone rang. Mike Kowalski, my foreman from the construction crew. "Tom, you coming in today? We got that Henderson job starting this morning." I called in sick. "Yeah, I know, but the thing is, Henderson saw that video of you and your wife. He's asking questions." My stomach dropped. "What kind of questions?" "The kind where he's wondering if you're going to be focused on work or if you're going to be dealing with personal drama on company time." "Mike, I've worked for you for 8 years. When have I ever brought personal problems to a job site?" "Never, and that's what I told him. But Tom, he's nervous. This video thing, it's got people talking. Some of the guys are making jokes, and Henderson doesn't want his project turning into a circus." "Are you firing me?" "Hell no, but I'm saying maybe you should take a few days, let this blow over, and then come back when things settle down." "How long is that going to take? This shit's on the internet forever." "I don't know, man. I'm sorry. This whole thing sucks." After he hung up, I realized I was effectively unemployed. My wife had left me, my personal life was internet entertainment, and now my professional reputation was in question because I'd been publicly humiliated. I was spiraling into a pretty dark place when my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I could see a woman I didn't recognize, mid-30s, professional-looking, holding a briefcase and wearing the kind of smile that usually precedes bad news. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm Amanda Torres from Davidson & Associates. I represent Claire Davidson and Meridian Financial." Claire's lawyer. This was about to get interesting. "What do you want?" "May I come in? I think we can resolve this situation in a way that benefits everyone." Against my better judgment, I let her in. She sat on my couch like she owned the place and opened her briefcase with practiced efficiency. "Mr. Mitchell, my client is prepared to offer you a settlement." "A settlement for what?" "For the disruption this situation has caused to your life and to your marriage. Your client is the reason my marriage is over." That's one way to look at it. Another way is that your client provided your wife with the emotional support she needed to discover her authentic self. I stared at her. "Did you just say that with a straight face?" "Mr. Mitchell, Claire Davidson is a respected businesswoman with a reputation to protect. The video of Friday's incident has created an unfortunate situation for everyone involved." "Unfortunate for everyone?" "Lady, I'm the one who got humiliated in front of the entire internet." "Which is why my client is prepared to offer you $50,000 to sign a non-disclosure agreement." $50,000. That was more money than I'd ever seen at one time. It was enough to start over, maybe buy a smaller house, definitely enough to weather the storm of unemployment and divorce. What would I be agreeing not to disclose? Any details about your wife's relationship with Ms. Davidson? Any private communications or interactions? Any disparaging comments about Ms. Davidson or Meridian Financial? So she wants to pay me to shut up. She wants to compensate you for your discretion. I thought about it. $50,000 to keep quiet about something that was already public knowledge anyway. The video had already shown the world everything there was to see. What if I say no? Then you'll receive nothing, and you'll be free to say whatever you want to, whoever wants to listen. But Mr. Mitchell, I should mention that Ms. Davidson has considerable resources and a very good legal team. If you were to say anything that could be construed as defamatory... The threat was subtle but clear. Take the money and shut up, or risk being sued into oblivion. I need to think about it. Of course, but I should mention that this offer expires at 5 o'clock today. She left her business card on my coffee table and showed herself out, leaving me alone with the biggest decision I'd faced since agreeing to marry Saddie 15 years ago. $50,000. It was tempting. God knows I needed the money, especially with my job situation uncertain and divorce lawyers to pay. But something about it felt wrong. Claire Davidson had stolen my wife, humiliated me in public, and now she wanted to pay me to disappear quietly into the night. I called Jake. "They offered you money?" he said after I explained the situation. 50 grand. Jesus. That's real money, Tom. I know. But you're thinking about turning it down. Yeah. Why? Because screw her, that's why. She doesn't get to destroy my life and then pay me to pretend it didn't happen. Tom, be practical. You need that money. I need my self-respect more. Self-respect doesn't pay the mortgage. Neither does unemployment, but I'm dealing with that too. Jake was quiet for a minute. What are you going to do instead? I don't know yet, but I'm not going to let Claire Davidson buy my silence. At 4:45, I called Amanda Torres. Ms. Torres, this is Tom Mitchell. You can tell your client that she can take her $50,000 and shove it up her ass. Mr. Mitchell, I don't think you understand the implications. I understand perfectly. Your client thinks she can humiliate me and then pay me to go away quietly. But here's the thing. I'm not going away, and I'm not being quiet. I hung up before she could respond. For the first time since Friday afternoon, I felt like myself again. Not the victim, not the humiliated husband, not the guy from the viral video. Just Tom Mitchell, and Tom Mitchell didn't take bribes from people who'd wronged him. Now I just had to figure out what Tom Mitchell was going to do instead. Tuesday morning brought clarity like a cold slap to the face. I woke up with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in months, maybe years. Claire Davidson thought she could buy my silence, but what she'd actually done was show me her weakness. She was afraid of what I might say or do. That fear was something I could work with. I drove to Murphy's Tavern, figuring the morning crowd would be thin and I could think without interruption. The place was nearly empty except for a few regulars who looked like they'd been there since the Carter administration. I ordered coffee and pulled out a notebook, the kind I used for construction estimates. If I was going to take on Claire Davidson, I needed a plan. And like any good construction project, it started with understanding the foundation. What did I know about Claire? She was the CEO of Meridian Financial, which meant she had money, power, and a reputation to protect. She dated Saddie in college, which meant their relationship wasn't just some random office affair. It had history, depth, emotional weight, and she'd offered me $50,000 to keep quiet, which meant she was worried about something. But what? I pulled out my phone and started researching. Meridian Financial was a mid-sized investment firm that specialized in retirement planning and wealth management. Claire Davidson had been CEO for 3 years, taking over from the company's founder when he retired. Before that, she'd worked at several large financial firms in Chicago and New York. On the surface, everything looked clean and professional, but I'd learned in construction that the most dangerous problems were usually the ones you couldn't see from the outside. I was deep in reading about Meridian's client base when someone slid into the booth across from me. Tom Mitchell. I looked up to see a woman in her 40s, auburn hair, wearing jeans and a leather jacket. She had the kind of direct gaze that suggested she was used to getting straight answers. Depends who's asking. Kelly Ramos, investigative reporter for the Tribune. I've been trying to reach you. Not interested in interviews. What about information? That got my attention. What kind of information? The kind that might help you understand why Claire Davidson was so eager to pay you to keep quiet. She pulled out a tablet and set it on the table between us. Mind if I buy you another coffee? This might take a while. Against my better judgment, I nodded. I've been investigating Meridian Financial for 6 months, Kelly said, settling back into the booth. Started as a routine business story, local firm doing well, female CEO breaking barriers, that kind of thing. But the more I dug, the more interesting it got. Interesting how? 3 months ago, right around the time your wife started working there, Meridian lost 2 major clients. Big retirement accounts, the kind that keep investment firms in business. The official reason was strategic differences, but my sources say the clients were concerned about some of Meridian's investment practices. What kind of practices? The kind that make money in the short term, but leave clients holding the bag when markets turn bad. Nothing technically illegal, but ethically questionable. She swiped to another screen on her tablet. Then there's this. Meridian's been hemorrhaging employees. In the past year, they've had a 30% turnover rate in their investment division. That's not normal for a successful firm. Maybe Claire's just a shitty boss. Maybe. Or maybe people are jumping ship because they don't like what they're seeing. Kelly leaned forward. Tom, I think your wife stumbled into something bigger than just a job opportunity, and I think Claire Davidson is using her personal relationship with Saddie to keep her quiet about what she might have seen. Saddie's not some financial whistleblower. She's an analyst. She crunches numbers. Numbers tell stories, Tom, and if Saddie's been analyzing Meridian's investment strategies, she might know more than she realizes. I thought about Saddie's secretiveness over the past 3 months. I'd assumed she was just being discreet about office politics, but what if it was something more? Why are you telling me this? Because I need proof. I have suspicions and sources, but I need documentation. And I think your wife might have access to the kind of information that could expose what's really going on at Meridian. She's not my wife anymore, or she won't be soon. But she trusts you, or she did. If you could convince her to talk. Lady, my wife just left me for her boss. I don't think she's going to help me expose her new girlfriend's business practices. Kelly smiled. What if I told you that exposing those practices might be the best thing that could happen to Saddie? I'd say you're full of shit. Hear me out. If Meridian goes down, Saddie goes down with it. She's new enough that she could claim ignorance, but if she's been involved in any questionable analysis or reporting, she could face professional consequences, maybe even legal ones. That got my attention. Whatever else had happened between us, I didn't want to see Saddie destroy her career over Claire Davidson. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that you might be able to save your wife from making the biggest mistake of her professional life, and in the process, you might get some satisfaction from watching Claire Davidson face the consequences of her actions. Kelly slid a business card across the table. Think about it, Tom. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. After she left, I sat in the booth for another hour, thinking about what she'd told me. If Kelly was right, then Claire wasn't just a successful CEO who'd stolen my wife. She was a criminal who was using Saddie as cover for her illegal activities. And if that was true, then maybe I could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Expose Claire's crimes and save Saddie from becoming collateral damage. I called Saddie's number. It went straight to voicemail. Saddie, it's me. We need to talk. And it's not about our marriage. It's about your job. Call me back. She called 20 minutes later. Tom, what's wrong? You sounded scared. I am scared. For you. Can we meet somewhere? Somewhere private? I don't think that's a good idea. Saddie, this isn't about us. This is about Claire and Meridian Financial. I think you might be in danger. Silence. What kind of danger? The kind that could destroy your career. Maybe worse. Another pause. Where do you want to meet? Murphy's Tavern. 1 hour. Tom, if this is some kind of trick, it's not. I swear on my mother's grave, this is about protecting you, not getting you back. Okay, 1 hour. I hung up and ordered another coffee. In 60 minutes, I was either going to save my wife's career or blow up what was left of my life. Maybe both. Saddie walked into Murphy's Tavern like she was entering enemy territory, her eyes scanning the room before settling on me in the back booth. She looked different, thinner, more polished, wearing clothes I'd never seen before. Designer clothes, Claire's influence, no doubt. She slid into the booth across from me but kept her purse clutched in her lap like she might need to make a quick escape. You look good, I said, and meant it. Tom, please, you said this wasn't about us. It's not, but I can still notice that you look good. She relaxed slightly. What's this about? What danger? I pulled out Kelly's business card and set it on the table. A reporter's been investigating Meridian Financial. She thinks Claire might be involved in some illegal investment practices. Saddie's face went white. That's ridiculous. Is it? Saddie, when's the last time you really looked at what you've been analyzing? Not just the numbers, but what they represent. I analyze portfolio performance and risk assessment. It's all standard stuff. For which clients? I can't tell you that. It's confidential. Saddie, I'm not asking you to betray client confidentiality. I'm asking you to think about whether the work you've been doing is legal. She was quiet for a long moment, and I could see her thinking. What exactly is this reporter claiming? That Meridian's been using questionable investment strategies, taking excessive risks with client money, maybe misrepresenting the nature of certain investments. She thinks employees have been quitting because they don't want to be part of it. That's not possible. Claire wouldn't do that. Saddie, you've known Claire for 3 months as your boss and lover. I'm asking you to think like the financial analyst you are, not like the woman who's sleeping with the CEO. Her face flushed with anger. Don't what? Don't point out that you might not be objective about this. Claire is a brilliant businesswoman. She's built Meridian into one of the most successful firms in the region. In 3 years? Saddie, you're smarter than this. How does a firm grow that fast without taking major risks? I could see doubt creeping into her expression. What does this reporter want? Proof, documentation, the kind of analysis that shows what Meridian's really been doing with client money. You want me to spy on Claire. I want you to protect yourself. Saddie, if this reporter is right, and if Meridian goes down, you're going to go down with it. You're the newest employee, which makes you the perfect scapegoat. Claire wouldn't do that to me? Claire offered me $50,000 to keep quiet about your affair. Does that sound like someone who's worried about your reputation or her own? Saddie stared at me. She what? Yesterday. Her lawyer came to my house with a non-disclosure agreement and a check. $50,000 to shut up and disappear. I didn't know about that. I figured. The question is, what else don't you know about? Saddie was quiet for a long time, staring at her hands. When she looked up, there were tears in her eyes. Tom, I think I might have made a terrible mistake. About Claire? About everything. The job, the relationship, leaving you. I think I've been so caught up in feeling free and authentic and all that bullshit that I haven't been paying attention to what's actually happening around me. What do you mean? The clients who left. I did the analysis on their portfolios, and some of the investments didn't make sense. High-risk derivatives, speculative bonds, stuff that was completely inappropriate for retirees. When I asked Claire about it, she said the clients had requested aggressive growth strategies. But you didn't believe her. I didn't want to believe she was lying to me, so I convinced myself that maybe I didn't understand the full picture. What else? The employee turnover. People would quit suddenly, sometimes without giving notice. Claire would say they'd found better opportunities elsewhere, but some of them seemed scared when they left. Scared of what? I don't know. But Tom, if what this reporter is saying is true, then I've been helping Claire commit fraud. My analysis, my reports, they could be used as evidence of criminal activity. I reached across the table and took her hand. For a moment, it felt like we were partners again instead of adversaries. Saddie, what do you want to do? I want to see what this reporter has. I want to understand what I've gotten myself into. I called Kelly Ramos. She was at Murphy's in 15 minutes, carrying a briefcase that looked like it contained the secrets of the universe. Mrs. Mitchell, she said, sliding into the booth next to me, thank you for agreeing to meet. It's Ms. Now, I think, Saddie said, and I haven't agreed to anything yet. I just want to understand what you think you know about my employer. Kelly opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. What I know is that Meridian Financial has been operating what amounts to a Ponzi scheme for the past 2 years. They've been using new client money to pay returns to existing clients while investing the bulk of their assets in high-risk, high-reward strategies that have been failing consistently. She spread several documents across the table. These are SEC filings, client complaints, and internal communications I've obtained through various sources. They paint a picture of a company that's been lying to its clients and its regulators about the nature of its investment strategy. Saddie picked up one of the documents and started reading. I watched her face change as she processed what she was seeing. This portfolio allocation report, she said slowly. I wrote this. For which client? The Henderson Retirement Fund. But these numbers, they're not what I submitted. Kelly leaned forward. What do you mean? I recommended a conservative allocation, 60% bonds, 30% blue chip stocks, 10% cash equivalents. But this shows 70% in derivatives and speculative investments. Someone changed your report? Someone changed my report and submitted it to the SEC as official documentation. The implications hit all three of us at the same time. Saddie's professional reputation wasn't just at risk. She was being set up to take the fall for Claire's illegal activities. Saddie, I said, you need to get out of there, now. I can't just quit. If I leave suddenly, it'll look suspicious. Kelly pulled out a digital recorder. What if you didn't have to quit? What if you could help us gather the evidence we need to shut down the fraud and protect yourself at the same time? You want me to wear a wire? I want you to document what's really happening at Meridian. Get copies of the real reports, record conversations with Claire about the investment strategies, gather evidence that shows you were being used as a front for illegal activities. Saddie looked at me. Tom, What do you think? It was the first time in months that she'd asked for my opinion about anything important. I think you don't have a choice. If you do nothing, you're going to prison. If you help Kelly, you might be able to save your career and your freedom. And what do you get out of this? I smiled, and for the first time since Friday afternoon, it felt genuine. I get to watch Claire Davidson face the consequences of her actions. And maybe, if we're lucky, I get to help save the woman I spent 15 years married to. Saddie squeezed my hand. Okay, let's do it. Kelly smiled and started explaining the plan. The next morning, Saddie walked into Meridian Financial wearing a wire and carrying the weight of our entire plan on her shoulders. I sat in Kelly's van in the parking garage, listening to every word through headphones that made me feel like a character in a bad spy movie. Good morning, Claire. Saddie's voice came through crystal clear. Morning, beautiful. How was your evening? Complicated, Tom called me. There was a pause, and I could imagine Claire's face hardening. What did he want? He said a reporter had been asking questions about Meridian, about our investment practices. What kind of questions? I don't know. He was vague. But Claire, I'm worried. Some of the portfolio allocations I've been seeing don't match what I've been recommending. Another pause, longer this time. Saddie, come into my office. We need to talk. I held my breath as I heard footsteps, then the sound of a door closing. Saddie, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Tom is trying to hurt us. He's angry about our relationship, and he's looking for ways to cause problems. But the portfolio reports are none of his business. Saddie, you're new to this industry. You don't understand how complex these investment strategies can be. Sometimes we have to make adjustments to client portfolios based on market conditions or regulatory requirements. Without telling the clients? We tell them what they need to know. Saddie, these people trust us to manage their money effectively. If we explained every technical detail of every investment decision, they'd be overwhelmed and confused. I could hear the doubt in Saddie's voice. Claire, I've been thinking about some of the clients we've lost. The Hendersons, the Morrison Trust, the Riverside Pension Fund, they all left after I submitted my analysis on their portfolios. They left because they were unrealistic about their return expectations, or because they figured out that we were lying to them about their risk exposure. Silence. Then Claire's voice, colder than I'd ever heard it. Saddie, I think you need to be very careful about the accusations you're making. I'm not making accusations. I'm asking questions. Questions that could be interpreted as accusations. Questions that could damage this company and everyone who works here. Including me. Especially you. Saddie, you're the one who's been doing the analysis. Your name is on the reports. If anyone were to suggest that Meridian has been engaging in fraudulent practices, you'd be the first person the SEC would want to talk to. The threat was clear, and I could hear Saddie's sharp intake of breath. Are you threatening me? I'm protecting you. Saddie, I love you. I would never do anything to hurt you. But if you start making waves, if you start talking to reporters or asking too many questions, there's nothing I can do to shield you from the consequences. What consequences? The consequences of being the analyst who signed off on investment strategies that some people might consider inappropriate. I was gripping the headphones so tightly my knuckles were white. Claire was essentially admitting to the fraud while simultaneously threatening to frame Saddie for it. Claire, I need to ask you directly. Have you been altering my reports before submitting them to clients and regulators? Saddie, yes or no, Claire? Have you been changing my recommendations? A long pause. Then, sometimes adjustments are necessary. That's a yes. That's a business decision made by someone with more experience than you. It's fraud, Claire. You've been committing fraud and using my work to cover it up. Saddie, you need to calm down. I need to resign. You can't resign. Why not? Because if you resign now, especially if you talk to any reporters or investigators, it will look like you're trying to distance yourself from activities you were directly involved in. Activities you involved me in without my knowledge. Activities you should have questioned if you were as competent as your resume suggested. The conversation was spiraling, and I could hear Saddie starting to panic. Kelly, who was monitoring from the front of the van, gave me a thumbs up. We had everything we needed. Claire, I think I should go home. I'm not feeling well. Saddie, don't do anything stupid. Remember, your professional future depends on how you handle this situation. Is that another threat? It's a reminder that we're in this together. What affects Meridian affects you. I heard the sound of a door opening, then Saddie's footsteps in the hallway. Her breathing was rapid and shallow. She was having a panic attack. Saddie, I said into the microphone that connected to her earpiece, you did great. Get out of there and meet us at Murphy's. 20 minutes later, Saddie stumbled into the tavern looking like she'd just escaped from a burning building. Kelly and I were waiting in our usual booth, and Saddie collapsed into the seat across from us. "Jesus Christ," she said, pulling the wire out of her shirt. "I can't believe I was sleeping with that woman." "You got everything we needed," Kelly said, reviewing her notes. "Admission of altering reports, threats to frame you for fraud, acknowledgement of inappropriate investment practices. What happens now? Now I write the story, and the SEC gets a copy of that recording along with all the documentation we've gathered." Saddie looked at me. "Tom, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. For leaving you. For not seeing what Claire really was. For putting both of us in danger." "Saddie, you don't need to." "Yes, I do. I was so desperate to feel like I was living authentically that I ignored every red flag. I let her manipulate me, professionally and personally." "What do you want to do now?" "I want to make this right. I want to help Kelly expose what Claire's been doing, and I want to protect the clients who trusted Meridian with their retirement savings." Kelly smiled. "That's exactly what we're going to do." But as we sat there planning our next move, none of us realized that Claire Davidson wasn't going to go down without a fight, and her next move was going to put all of us in more danger than we'd bargained for. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Mr. Mitchell, we need to talk. Your wife is in more trouble than you realize. Meet me at Riverside Park, East Entrance, 1 hour. Come alone." I showed the message to Kelly and Saddie. "Don't go," Saddie said immediately. "It's obviously a trap." But Kelly was studying the message with professional interest. "Actually, Tom, I think you should go, but not alone." "What do you have in mind?" She smiled. "Time for phase 2 of our plan." Riverside Park at dusk looked like something out of a noir film. Long shadows, empty pathways, and the kind of atmospheric tension that made you expect gunshots or betrayal around every corner. I walked toward the east entrance with Kelly's backup recording device in my jacket pocket and a sick feeling in my stomach. The person waiting for me wasn't who I'd expected. "Mr. Mitchell?" A man in his 50s, wearing an expensive suit and the kind of nervous expression that suggested he'd rather be anywhere else. "I'm David Chen, Meridian's head of compliance." "You're the one who texted me?" "I am, and I think we have a mutual problem." He gestured toward a bench overlooking the river. We sat down, and he immediately started talking like he was afraid he'd lose his nerve. "Mr. Mitchell, I've been watching what's happening at Meridian for the past year, and I can't stay silent anymore. Claire Davidson has been running a massive fraud, and she's planning to pin it all on your wife." "Saddie's not my wife anymore." "Legally, maybe not, but you still care about her, or you wouldn't be here." He was right about that. "What kind of fraud are we talking about?" "Ponzi scheme, essentially. She's been using new investor money to pay returns to existing clients while gambling the rest on high-risk investments. When those investments fail, she alters the reports to hide the losses." "How much money?" $47 million. Gone. Vanished into bad derivatives and speculative bonds. I felt sick. "And Saddie?" "Saddie's been doing legitimate analysis, but Claire's been changing her reports before submitting them to regulators. When this comes out, and it will come out, Saddie's going to look like she was either complicit or incompetent." "Why are you telling me this?" Chen pulled out a flash drive. "Because I've been documenting everything, and I need help getting this information to the right people without Claire finding out it came from me." "You're scared of her." "I'm terrified of her. Mr. Mitchell, Claire Davidson is not just a white-collar criminal. She's dangerous. When people cross her, bad things happen to them." "What kind of bad things?" "The kind where former employees end up in car accidents or have their reputations destroyed by mysterious allegations of professional misconduct." I thought about the employees who'd quit suddenly, the ones Saddie said seemed scared. "What's on the flash drive?" "Everything. Original reports, altered versions, client communications, internal memos, enough to put Claire away for 20 years and clear Saddie of any wrongdoing." "Why don't you just take it to the SEC yourself?" "Because Claire has connections there, friends who would tip her off before any official investigation could begin. By the time the feds moved, all the evidence would disappear, and I'd probably disappear with it." I took the flash drive. "What do you want me to do with this?" "Give it to that reporter who's been asking questions. Kelly Ramos. She's got the connections and the credibility to make sure this gets handled properly." "How do you know about Kelly?" Chen smiled grimly. "Because I'm the one who's been feeding her information for the past 6 months. I just couldn't give her the smoking gun until now." "Why now?" "Because this morning, Claire told me to prepare a report that would make Saddie look like a rogue analyst who'd been making unauthorized investment decisions. She's planning to fire Saddie and blame her for all the missing money." My blood went cold. "When?" "Tomorrow. She's called a board meeting for 9 a.m. I stood up. I have to warn Saddie. Mr. Mitchell, wait. There's something else. I turned back. Claire knows about the wire Saddie wore today. She had the office swept for recording devices this afternoon. How is that possible? Because Claire's not stupid, and Saddie's not a professional spy. Claire figured out that Saddie was fishing for information, and she put two and two together. Is Saddie in danger? I think so. Claire's been making phone calls to some very unpleasant people, the kind of people who solve problems permanently. I was already running toward my truck when Chen called after me. Mr. Mitchell, give that drive to the reporter tonight. It might be the only thing that saves Saddie's life. I called Saddie's phone while speeding through downtown traffic. It went straight to voicemail. I called Kelly. We have a problem. What kind of problem? The kind where Saddie might be in immediate physical danger. Can you meet me at her apartment? Tom, slow down. What's going on? I explained about Chen, the flash drive, and Claire's plan to frame Saddie for the fraud. Jesus, Kelly said. Okay, I'm calling the FBI. This is way beyond a financial crime story now. How long will that take? Too long. Meet me at Saddie's apartment. We'll figure out how to keep her safe until the feds can move. Saddie's new apartment, the one she'd gotten with Claire, was in one of those upscale complexes that looked like a resort and cost more per month than most people made in a year. I found Kelly waiting in the parking lot, and together we went up to the third floor. Saddie's door was open. That's not good, Kelly said, pulling out her phone. We found Saddie tied to a chair in her living room, conscious but obviously terrified. Claire Davidson stood behind her, holding a gun that looked like it meant business. Mr. Mitchell, Claire said calmly, so nice of you to join us. And Ms. Ramos, thank you for bringing all your research materials. Kelly was carrying her briefcase, which contained copies of everything we'd gathered on Meridian's fraud. Let Saddie go, I said. This is between you and me. Actually, this is between me and anyone who threatens my business. Saddie made that choice when she decided to wear a wire into my office. Claire, please, Saddie said. Tom doesn't have anything to do with this. Tom has everything to do with this. He's the one who brought that reporter into our lives. He's the one who convinced you to betray me. Claire's voice was calm, but her eyes were completely insane. This wasn't just about money or fraud. This was personal. What do you want? I asked. I want the flash drive David Chen gave you, and I want all of Miss Ramos's research materials. In exchange, Saddie lives. And if we give you what you want, then you all live, for now. Kelly stepped forward. Ms. Davidson, this has gone way beyond financial fraud. You're looking at kidnapping, assault with a deadly weapon, and potentially murder charges. The smart thing to do is put down the gun and call a lawyer. Claire laughed. The smart thing to do was mind your own business, but it's too late for smart choices now. That's when I noticed that Saddie had been working on the ropes binding her wrists. Her hands were almost free. I caught her eye and nodded slightly. Claire, I said, you're right. This is my fault. I should have taken your money and kept my mouth shut. Yes, you should have. But here's the thing I don't understand. Why Saddie? You could have had any analyst, any employee. Why did you have to steal my wife? Because she was perfect. Smart enough to do the work, naive enough to trust me, and emotionally vulnerable enough to fall in love with me. So you never actually cared about her. I cared about what she could do for me. Saddie's hands came free. In one fluid motion, she grabbed the lamp from the side table and swung it at Claire's gun hand. The gun went off, shattering the window behind me. I lunged forward and tackled Claire to the ground while Kelly called 911. By the time the police arrived, Claire Davidson was in handcuffs, and Saddie was crying in my arms. Tom, she whispered, I'm so sorry for everything. Saddie, you don't need to apologize. You were the victim here. No, I was an idiot. I let her manipulate me into betraying everything I believed in. Kelly appeared beside us, having just finished giving her statement to the police. The FBI is taking over the case, she said. With Chen's evidence and the recording from today, Claire's looking at federal charges for fraud, money laundering, kidnapping, and attempted murder. What about Saddie? Saddie's a witness, not a defendant. Her cooperation is going to help recover millions of dollars for Meridian's clients. 6 months later, I was sitting in a federal courtroom watching Claire Davidson get sentenced to 25 years in prison. Saddie testified as the prosecution's star witness, and her courage in exposing the fraud had made her something of a hero in the financial industry. After the sentencing, Saddie and I walked out of the courthouse together. So what now? She asked. Now you rebuild your career, and I figure out what I want to do with the rest of my life. Tom, I know I don't have the right to ask this, but do you think we could try again? I mean, really try this time? I looked at the woman I'd been married to for 15 years, the woman who'd left me for a criminal, the woman who'd risked her life to do the right thing. Saddie, I think we both need to figure out who we are as individuals before we try to be anything as a couple. But maybe someday? Maybe someday? She smiled, and for the first time in months, it looked genuine. I'd like that. As we walked down the courthouse steps, I realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. It's helping someone find their way back to who they really are. And sometimes, if you're really lucky, you find your way back too.